Welcome to the wonderful world of dance, bringing you exclusive interviews with top dancers and choreographers and reviews of the world's best companies across the globe. You can find lots more on our website at thewonderfulworldofdance.com.
Hi, this is Savannah Saunders of The Wonderful World of Dance, and today I'm so excited to introduce Paul Chantry and Rae Piper, co-artistic directors and co-choreographic partners, and also husband and wife, founders of the Chantry Dance Company. So let's say hi to Paul and Rae. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, no, thank you for having us.
Hello, Rae, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for having us today.
Fantastic. I'm so happy to have both of you on the show today to have a chat about your company and your careers, which I've been reading about, which are quite amazing. But firstly, let's talk about the dance company, Chantry Dance Company. Tell us about your company.
So Chantry Dance Company was formed back in 2012, and we're not going to lie, it was formed a little bit by accident, to be honest with you. So it's a bit of a funny story of how it came about. Fundamentally, Paul and myself were working together just as freelance choreographers, and we were approached by Sadler's Wells to create some work for a company which was coming over from China. So it was part of the Chinese Ministry of Culture, and they were bringing over this very famous master calligrapher to perform his show at Sadler's Wells, and they wanted to have a Western dance company to perform whilst the master calligrapher was writing his calligraphy on stage to the music or a live orchestra. So Sadler's approached myself and Paul and said, would you be interested in choreographing this? And we were like, well, yes, of course. Let me just check my diary. I mean, Sadler's Wells. You don't really say no. But we were very excited by the prospect of this. And so we went along to have a meeting with the producers of the show, and the meeting went brilliantly, and they were really excited to work with us. We were excited to work with them, and then they said, what is your company called? And Paul and I sort of were like, well, it's me and Paul, we're just freelance choreographers. And they didn't really understand this concept at all. So we found ourselves in the position of having to just create a name of a company. And obviously, we brought some of our colleagues together to work as the dancers for this show. So we were a company for the time and the duration of that show, but we weren't, an established fixed company at all at this point. So we basically sort of created the name Chantry Dance Company pretty much on the spot. And then after the show at Sadler's, we felt that, maybe this was a turn of fate and it was something that we were supposed to be doing. And so we decided to pursue this idea of actually having a cohesive company, something to pursue our artistic vision with. And Chantry Dance Company was born. It was a bit of a baptism by fire, to be fair.
That sounds
so that's how it came about.
It's interesting. It does sound very fortuitous and in almost that sort of Chinese proverbian, way, actually, doesn't it? It sounds like the stars aligned and your company was born. It must have been an exciting time.
Oh, definitely. It was incredibly exciting. I mean, to be able to have your choreography performed on Sadler's Wells main stage as basically pretty much the debut of your company, it was something that we still we look back on it really, don't we? And we think, how on earth did that ever happen? But it did, and we're very grateful for that. And it was a really fascinating experience, to work not only at Sadler's, which, both Paul and myself had done before, but to work on the other side of the table, so to speak, as the choreographers. And then also to work with Eastern producers and to have that wonderful joining of cultures together. So it was altogether just a really wonderful experience.
And tell me about your own choreographic journey, your own artistic journey that sort of brought you to choreographing this particular piece. I mean, you've had an extensive career yourself independently, and also Paul has had an extensive career. But tell us about, your husband and wife. How far back do we go where your story starts and where the two of you come together and a new story begins?
So Ray and I actually met in 2011. We were introduced by a mutual friend who kind of said, Paul, meet Ray, she's a dancer. Ray, meet Paul, he's a dancer. And she kind of just faded into the background and kind of left us to it. Ray was at the time actually performing in the Phantom of the Opera musical, The Love Never Dies, so the sequel to Phantom of the Opera. And I was dancing in an opera.
Wow.
First time I've actually thought about that. Yeah, and...
but we weren't introduced whilst at work. This mutual friend of ours, we basically completely met just as normal people. We had no idea what the other person did, and our mutual friend just introduced us, didn't she?
Yeah, and we just got talking and found out more what each other did, and Ray hadn't really done a lot of contemporary dance before, but actually just threw herself into everything that we decided to do together.
Yeah, it's strange sort of how our careers. My career had been more based in the sort of ballet and musical theatre world, and Paul's had gone more into the contemporary world, although we both had experience of each other's worlds. And it was quite funny, actually, to be fair, because when we were both introduced, Paul actually thought I was working front of house at the theatre rather than actually in the show. So I'm not...
No, I'll tell you why. It's because she actually... So I said to her, where do you work? And instead of saying I work on Phantom of the Opera, she actually said I work at the Adelphi Theatre. So I just assumed that she probably worked front of house or in the box office. I think you actually said you worked at Phantom.
I know. It's all my fault, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love this sort of husband-wife tussle, over the true telling of the story.
So what we actually did, and then the next step of the journey was, as Ray has already explained, about how Sadler's Wells came about, because we were asked to participate in a research and development project at Sadler's Wells. It was a small thing that was going to be a small show that was going to be based on the Mary Norton novel, The Borrowers. And that was the first time we actually found ourselves working together as dancers.
True. Yeah.
And we found that we were able to connect physically. I think there's something really special when you are a husband and wife dancing together. I think it does really bring something special to your dancing. And we've had a lot of comments about that from people. That this isn't anything egotistical, but people do say that they see something different. They say something unique in us. And we started the company, and we try and dance as much as possible because we just love dancing together.
Okay. So you set up this. You meet in 2011. You set up this company in 2012, and here we are, sort of, 6 years later. And in that time, clearly you've got married, and you've set up. You're running.
Well. Yeah, we got married actually during the time we were creating the show at Sadler's Wells. It was all a little bit crazy, to be fair. Because when we met in 2011, the actual timeline of events was we met 2 weeks later. Paul told me that I was his girlfriend. Didn't ask, please note. He actually just told me, and I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And 2 weeks after that, he told me that he was going to marry me.
Oh,
I know, it's really cute. After 6 months, he proposed, and then a year after knowing each other, we got married. And it felt exactly the same time as the Sadler's Wells show. So while we were on honeymoon, we were still receiving phone calls from the producers trying to sort out music for the show and the dancers and the choreography.
And I think one of the voicemails actually started, I know you're on your honeymoon, but no, we're on our honeymoon. There's no but.
So we got married back then, and then as you say, so 6 years from that further on, we're still married, which is great.
You're still married. Your company's still here. Sorry, what was that?
So we've even done IKEA together, and we're still here.
Yeah. So how do you sort of divvy up the work essentially, or the roles and responsibilities? Because you're co-artistic directors. You're saying you both like to dance as much as possible. You're both choreographers. Tell me about sort of your days and the projects that you work on and how that works for you, and maybe use the example of one of your upcoming shows to tell me about how your dance company operates and how you operate together.
Sure. Well, I think the first thing to probably be said is that we have a really, really strong and fabulous core team around us at the company, who we simply just couldn't operate without them. So the way that the company works is basically we take on the jobs which we're strongest or most proficient at. So, for example, I have a particular interest in dramaturgy and writing stories and designing concepts for the ballets, whereas Paul is particularly interested in movement language and working on detail within scenes and characters. So we complement each other in a sort of a choreographic partnership in that way, that I'll tend to be very much the broad brushstrokes of what we're looking at. Paul will be putting in the movement language and the detail. And then we've got this incredible core team around us. So we have our dance director, Gail Gordon, who previously was also a choreographer herself and a performer. She was head of dance at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School for over 30 years. And now we've stolen her. We're very happy about that. So now she works with the dancers and particularly with me when I'm dealing with concept and narrative, in helping design story arcs and character arcs and the acting sort of aspect of things. So, for example, on our current show, we're developing a show called Dracula, Welcome to Dees, which is inspired by the Bram Stoker novel, but it's a complete reimagining of the story. So we've rewritten it, and although the characters remain the familiar characters that you would expect to see, Dracula and Harker and Mina and Lucy, etc., we have changed them and we've changed their setting. If I say slightly, that would be a bit of a lie. Quite a lot. It actually takes place in a cabaret club now. Dracula decided that the cabaret club is far more his home than a dusty old house in
I like it. Oh, yeah, that sounds far more entertaining.
So we have, I'm sort of painting the broad picture. Paul's putting in a huge level of detail. He works particularly, you love working with duets and trios and solos.
Yeah, I definitely think that's where my strength is. We always say that when we come to big ensemble numbers, Rae basically says to people, right, you're going to move from here to here, and Paul's going to show you how to do it.
Let's talk about your choreographic language and your movement language, and how you approach working with the team and what inspires you.
Yeah, so as regards our movement language, it's actually taken us quite a long time to actually work out what it is we do.
And I think we're still, I would hope we're still evolving, because, when you stop evolving, it's time to start worrying. So
when we first started the company, we did experiment quite a bit to find out what it is made us actually tick. And I think we've actually kind of on the right path now to find out what it is that we like to choreograph, like to present and like to dance in. And
I would say the language is very strongly based in sort of the contemporary dance foundation techniques like Martha Graham. We use quite a lot of Limone as well, don't we? You're very interested in Limone style movement. And then influences obviously of the balletic, classical ballet and the classical Greek as well.
And this all takes place in a cabaret setting.
Oh, well, yeah, believe it or not, it does work.
I think it sounds amazing. I can't wait.
When we're working with narrative ballet, something that we have been discovering over the past few years is that we don't ever want to feel limited to one style of dance if that style of dance doesn't move the narrative or the character forward. So, for example, in a cabaret club, we have this section where there's some jazz music playing, and it just screams out to have jazz dance, dance to it, with a little contemporary flavor on top. So, we feel if that's what is needed, then that's what's needed in this moment. And, if the character is more contemporary or needs to be more floor-based, then we have to go there. If the character requires a more neoclassical feel, then we go there, really. So I think one of the things that really helps us with this is perhaps the fact that Paul and I have got such varied performance backgrounds ourselves. So we do have quite a lot to draw on, in the sense of everything that shaped us as performers is now feeding into our choreographic work. You know, for example, you've worked so much with Javier de Frutos, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to maybe say a little bit about what you've done with him and how that's informed your work?
Yeah, so I worked with Javier quite a few times, and the two of the big shows that I did with him was his controversial ballet, Eternal Damnation of Sancho and Sanchez, which was part of the Dracula's Ballet Russe centenary celebration of Sadler's Wells back in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very violent piece, very brutal piece. So actually being able to express very strong emotions on stage in a very natural way is something that I learned quite a lot from him, because I'm sure there's quite a few listeners who are aware of Javier and his style. And then the second piece I did, the other piece that I did with him, which is a bit different, was actually a fairy tale.
You said a bit different. It was totally different.
It was based on Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale called The Most Incredible Thing, which is actually only about 3 or 4 pages long, but he extended it into a ballet. And I think people were expecting it to be controversial. I think the most controversial thing about it was that it wasn't actually controversial. It wasn't what you normally expect him to do. So, you know, it's he was able to do both the very controversial things and then flip his hand and do very narrative, beautiful ballets. And that's one thing I really learned from him and some other people that I work with, you know, people like Will Tuckett, just having they have this incredible gift to be able to do so many things so amazingly, which is something I hope I and Rae can do for the rest of our life, is not stick ourselves to one thing, but just keep doing so many different things.
And in that desire for constant change, or more like a constant evolution, rather, and just thinking about some of the scenes that you've described and the different types of dance and the different influences, what is it that you would like your audience to walk away from your productions, or particularly the upcoming production of Dracula? What would you like them to go away feeling?
Well, I think more than anything else, we've always known that we're very theatrical as a company, and with that in mind, we want the audience to feel like they've witnessed a piece of theatre, a piece of drama, something that just happens to be told in dance. You know, dance is a language which we communicate in this particular circumstance, but not for the dance to become the only thing that they take away. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you can go and watch some beautiful, incredibly virtuosic, technical dancing, but for somebody in the audience who maybe doesn't know so much about dance, it won't touch their heart and their soul in quite the same way that a story might, or a character might. So I'm not saying for a single second that there isn't room for abstract dance or, you know, technical dancing in that way. And of course we are technical dancers ourselves, but I think for our company, the most important thing for us is to think that the audience has been touched by what they see, that they felt something. They've been taken on a journey, an emotional journey. They've witnessed characters who they started to connect with, who they feel for. They've gone through their stories together. So they feel that, you know, when they come out of the theatre, that they've been part of a different world. I guess that's probably the take-home thing, that we'd love to just invite them into our world just for that 2 hours, and then they can go home and feel that they've really experienced something out of the ordinary, something that they're going to hold with them. Just help them feel as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, this sense of narrative versus the abstract, you know, I think there's obviously room for everything. And I think, you know, with the UK dance scene, there is certainly room for everything. And audiences are looking for, you know, when able to access all types of dance that they perhaps are interested in. But this idea of narrative, audiences are screaming out for narrative, I think, at the moment. We hear a lot that they want to understand what's going on, they want to get taken on a journey, and they want to be absorbed into this world that they understand and can really connect with. So I think, it sounds like this is what you're looking to deliver for these people.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a great passion of the company to think about growing dance audiences and bringing people to dance who might not otherwise
Absolutely
have chosen to go and watch a dance production. So, we try to make our ballets very accessible without having to compromise the artistic or the technical quality of what we're doing, which, sometimes can be a bit of a juggling act.
Yeah.
And we also like to tour to venues and where maybe dance isn't the primary focus of that venue. So, we don't necessarily visit just the big dance houses in the UK. We're trying to go to different regional theatres and really develop audiences for dance in those regions. And it's just so wonderfully, wonderfully gratifying when you receive an email after a show from somebody who says something like, I've never been to see dance before, and I thought I was going to hate it, but I absolutely loved it.
Oh,
and
wow.
we brought somebody into the world of dance, and I just feel like we have this gift that we don't want to keep it just for ourselves.
Yeah.
We want to share it, And narrative dance is a great way of doing that for so many people.
It's transformative, isn't it? And particularly where you're taking these shows out of the main dance houses into communities and into settings where it's not typical for dance to be seen. And I was reading about your outreach program that the company has, where you're performing in some very unusual settings, hospitals, prisons, care homes and other places. But, these type of environments, I can imagine dance providing that incredible escape and an uplifting experience. So
we've actually been working on our outreach project for quite a long time now. One of the first things we actually did, we worked with another company called Pimlico Opera, where we were the choreographers on the shows that they used to take into the prisons. So these were big musicals. The first one we did was Sister Act in an all-female prison.
Wow!
And basically what happens is they transform their gymnasium into a full theatre. They bring seating in, they bring big lights in. And the principal cast of the show are actually professionals. So when we did Sister Act, we actually had a guy who played Eddie who just finished doing Sister Act on tour. And what we do is when we go into the prison, we actually work with the inmates, some of the inmates who've shown interest in the project. And, we teach them how to sing, we teach them how to act, we teach them how to dance, and they become the ensemble dancers and ensemble members, of the show. And it's so wonderful because a lot of them have never ever stepped foot in the theatre. The first time they're actually in the theatre is actually when they're actually on stage.
Yeah, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? Really,
it is, and it's very moving to see the journey that they all go on from the beginning and to the final night, when we normally have lots of tears.
Yes, I can imagine.
Moments in their life.
Yeah,
and they've discovered something about themselves other than probably a lot of the time of what they're actually in there for.
It's they discover something positive in what could have been a negative setting. So that certainly inspired our outreach project.
That definitely inspired our outreach project and program. And we go into prisons and deliver more contemporary dance focused projects. We take small scale down versions of other shows that we do to those prisons, to care homes in the area, to children's hospitals.
Wow.
And it's so wonderful, especially when you're up that close with people who are in unfortunate situations, just be moved to tears.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested. You're talking there about sort of, really reaching people, and one of the ways of, being able to reach new people for dance is through teaching dance, which I was always also interested to hear about, sort of how your Chantry School of Contemporary and Balletic Arts has come about.
Yeah, so obviously once we had the company up and running and we were producing these professional touring shows, and we'd started our outreach work as well, so we were then taking, as Paul said, some scaled-down versions of these touring shows to these more challenging locations. Education obviously sort of popped its head up as something else that we wanted to look at in terms of our company mission. And so we started off actually really, really small. We just started off by running a couple of associate programs, which happened once a month. And the idea behind that was that young dancers from across the country could come up and dance with the company and be taught by the company directors and team once a month. And so we started this with just 2 programs. And very quickly, 2 programs evolved into about 9 or 10 different programs. And we had dance students of all ages wanting to do these associate programs. So they were ranging from age 6 all the way up to sort of in their late teens up to 20s. And then we kept on receiving requests from them to say, well, when are you going to start a full-time course? Because we want to come and dance with you all the time, not just once a month. So Paul and I were like, well, we've got an awful lot on with running a company, and, as well as this, we're still freelancing as choreographers as well, working with a lot of other companies. But, hey, it seems like the natural way to go, and we really have, such a feeling that Chantry Dance Company is more than just a company which produces shows. The scope has to be bigger than that. The reach has to be bigger than that. And so we finally bit the bullet, and we spent a couple of years developing a full-time diploma course, which is a 3-year program, vocational training for dancers aged 16 plus. And so now we have this up and running, and we're into our 2nd year already. And it's just been, it's almost like watching a dream unfold in front of your eyes, because we had this dream of having a company that had this kind of far-reaching impact. And now we're seeing these young dancers who are coming into the school. We're training them. They're working so hard. We're trying to give them all of our knowledge and experience. They're really grabbing hold of that. And then you see them when they come in and they meet the company dancers, and the 2 things come together, the school and the company. And, for example, just right at the beginning of our tour rehearsals this year, we had some of our diploma students coming in with the company to take company class. And we just looked around the room, and it was one of those just really beautiful, wonderful moments. You can't really capture that moment and describe it properly, but it was when you saw the 16 and 17-year-olds in the same room as the more senior dancers, the 40, and dare I even say up to 50, because we do have some more senior dancers in our company who are still incredible and beautiful and move like you wouldn't believe. But to see this range of ages where there were no barriers, nobody was judging each other. All we were there to do, all of us, was to be united and share in the passion of dance. And it was just a beautiful moment. So, this is really where we're seeing the company going and the school going, that they're very, very wonderfully connected. And we hope that once the students start graduating, that they'll be part of the company as well.
I have to say, it does sound extraordinary, not just, your own journeys, but to actually not just set up a school, but actually devise an actual academic program. This does not sound like a small undertaking at all. This sounds like an enormous undertaking that you have been able to achieve, and like you say, to see the fruits of all of that in one room and to see it all come together. It just sounds extraordinary. It must have been a huge amount of work.
Yeah, we haven't really slept for 6 years, to be fair.
I don't think so. I mean, you talk also about changes and reaching out. And I'm interested, you started the company in London, but you moved to Lincolnshire, where you're based now. How has that change, do you think, affected that 6-year journey that you've been on?
Yeah, so Rae and I, when we were in London and we started the company, we discovered that we had more of a heart for taking high quality professional performance and educational opportunities to people who don't receive a lot of it. And we thought, what we're doing in London?
Yeah, there's just so much in London.
There is a lot in London. And I'm actually from Grantham in Lincolnshire, so I am aware of the lack of access to dance and a lot of the arts in the town and
the county,
in the county in general. So we thought this probably would be an ideal place. And it has been one of the most rewarding things, actually, being out of London. And for a lot of people, being in the big city does help them, and they thrive on that. But we've actually found that we grow creatively and artistically when we don't have that kind of claustrophobicness, if that's even a word.
Yeah.
Just to be able to, simple things, just be able to have a studio where there's windows, and to come out and you're in the fields and so many different things just really add to ourselves creativity and creative. That doesn't sound
creativity. Yeah.
I know what I mean. But going back on what we said a while ago, that being in a different county where there isn't a lot of access to dance, the type of dance that we do, that it has given us a lot of opportunities, performance opportunities, especially to really reach out to people, to do more community-based things, a lot of our outreach projects as well. Which I don't think we really would have been able to do as much if we still stayed in a city.
Yeah, it's very hard to sort of predict what may have happened if we'd have remained in London. But I think it's very safe to say that with the move to Grantham and to Lincolnshire, we, as Paul said, he obviously has a massive heart for the county, being born there. But we've witnessed some really fabulous positive changes as a result of the stuff that we've been doing. For example, we've on the education front, we've heard quite a few young dance students say things along the lines of, "Oh, well, I'm not really sure if I'm going to do anything with my dancing because, I'm just from this small town in Lincolnshire somewhere." And I feel like we've been able to kind of start to change that mentality that, it doesn't matter where you're born, it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, because if you have the will and the heart and you work hard, then you'll be able to find a way of following your passion. If your passion is for dance, that's great, whatever your passion is. We've already seen students from this area that we've been working with really, really rise to success. We've just had one... No, actually, I like 2 of our full-time students go into the West End, into a production. So, that's really fabulous for the county. Also, very important that we should mention our local theatres, which it's the most beautiful traditional style theatre in Grantham, and I think when we moved to Grantham, we really didn't expect to receive the level of support from them, which we have, and they've been really instrumental in helping us, and that's been wonderful to really feel like we have a theatre supporting us, as well as a community or anything like that. But to actually have a theatre who was helping us, saying, yes, come and do your productions here. We're going to give you some time. We're going to give you, we're going to believe in you guys. We're going to, program you. And that was just really wonderful. And we are enjoying seeing how that relationship with the theatre here is developing. And then now, in much wider ranging within the county, the theatres all around here, as well as the other ones in the UK that we tour to in other regions.
I was just going to ask. Sorry about that. I just I lost you for a small bit, so I don't think I caught the name of the theatre. And hearing what you're saying about how instrumental they have been in the success, I really want to make sure that we give them a shout out and get their name.
Yes, sure.
Was it?
Yeah, it's the Guildhall Arts Centre in Grantham.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, they're wonderful, wonderful theatre.
I think
nothing but praise for them.
Well, I'm glad. I literally lost you for a small second there, and it was literally when you were saying the name. But I do think what you're doing is so important, because it shouldn't be that you have to come to the capital, come down to London to have a career in dance. You should be able to have a career that's fulfilling in the regions of the UK, because there are a lot of dancers who don't want to come down to London, who want to live in Lincolnshire, who'd love the opportunity of joining your company. Yeah,
I mean, we had experienced this real fantastic sense of locational success. I'm not sure that's a particularly English way of describing it, but with Paul and myself being based in Grantham. Just recently, a show that we both choreographed, it was for another company, but this was in our freelance choreography careers.
Mm-hmm.
But we choreographed Gangster Granny for Birmingham Stage Company, the David Walliams novel. And we were really so fortunate. The show was fantastic. It was a wonderful experience to be part of. And Birmingham Stage Company created this incredible production, and we were just so honoured to be the choreographers for it. And we were very fortunate that the show was nominated for an Olivier. So, in this moment, it was really a wonderful time for us, because we were able to say, look, hey, we're based in Grantham. We've just been working on a show that's been nominated for an Olivier. Both Paul and I went to the awards, and we were dressed in a fabulous dress which we had bought in Grantham, and a fabulous.
Wasn't it?
No, he wasn't. We were. No, I was.
Yeah.
I was in the dress. Paul was in a lovely tuxedo which we had sourced from Grantham. Part of the show as well, we had some other people from Grantham involved in, and I just felt like we were there at the Olivier Awards. And we were really flying the flag for Lincolnshire and Grantham and saying, look, hey, you can be from anywhere. Look where you can be. So it was, I'm really keen to we're really keen to try and encourage people to not ever feel that there are barriers to their dreams or to success.
Well, it sounds like what you're doing with the Chantry Dance Company and your dance school and your outreach program, and with your own choreographic work, is really, fulfilling the vision that you have, which I think is amazing. I'm so excited to hear that you're touring your new show, Dracula, Welcome to the D's, from the 21st of September through to the 14th of October. And there's quite a few shows within that time frame, it sounds like. But I wanted to ask you sort of, a couple of final questions. Tell me, we've talked about what you've achieved over the last 6 years, and it's such a huge amount. What is there a goal in mind for the next 6 years? If you think, well, in another 6 years' time, you would like to have also done this, or are you seeing how things evolve?
Oh, big question. I mean, as regards the pieces that we present, I mean, Rae and I are always discussing. We spend a lot of time in the car traveling up and down the country. So a lot of these journeys are actually taken up with us discussing what we're going to do in the future. We do have a very long list.
Yeah, we've got a long list of ballets we want to create. I think it's about now really expanding our touring venues. We want to be able to go to more places in the country. And I think as well for us, the next level would be to, as well as touring to these regional venues, we would love to work with some of the big dance houses just so that we can increase our production values and work in these locations, not ever at the expense of losing any of our other venues, of course. But it would be nice to to be able to say, look, we're a company that can play at perhaps a small art centre in the middle of wherever, but then we're also going to be playing, perhaps one of the really big dance houses like Savage Wells, because I think that could be very inspiring for people to know that there are companies out there that will do everything for everybody.
Yeah.
I think also as Rae was saying, on the production side, yes, we would like to grow on the production side of what we do, but I don't think we ever want to get to a point where we're creating shows that just have massive, massive sets, very mechanical things, because I think both of us absolutely thrive on just being very, very imaginative with very simple things, if that makes sense.
Well, it's that wonderful example that you were always giving me of the Matthew Bourne moment with the skating, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the skating. I mean, you don't need a wind machine if you can get dancers to do it. Absolutely fine. But for us, it's been okay. We need to create a cabaret scene, but we've only got £15 to do it with. And that does open us up. Like I say, it does open us up with our imagination.
Yeah.
And I think it really gives the audience something. It taps into their imagination a bit more than them coming and just seeing a massive set in front of them.
You've certainly, inspired me, I have to say, and I'm sure you've inspired all of our listeners. All I can think about is Dracula in a cabaret, which sounds amazing. So let me just, repeat those dates for people who may not have caught it. It's Dracula, Welcome to the D's, running from the 21st of September to the 14th of October. And you can find out all of the details on Chantry's website, chantrydancecompany.org. That's CHANTRY dancecompany.org. Thank you so much, Paul and Rae, for talking with us today. And I can't wait to hopefully see one of your shows soon.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe. We've got some incredible interviews coming up with principal ballerinas and renowned choreographers. We love dance and ballet, and we hope you'll love us. Join us on Facebook and Twitter.